And so, from your opinion too, because we're seeing a lot of talk around female characters now. And so, from a female perspective, where do you think they're going wrong and how do you right the ship?
I think the underlying what we were talking about, that emotion, if you actually then take it up to like what's the overlining philosophy that they're aiming for? It's female empowerment is the disguise, but it's really female supremacy. And I have a massive issue with that. That's actually my biggest problem. It's in the same way that I have a problem with the concept of male supremacy, right? And there was this interview with are you familiar with Just Pearly Things?
No.
She's a huge conservative commentator, and she's a big advocate for men in divorce proceedings because men are often losing out on any access to their children. She's doing great work, but one of the things she said is like, "Oh, women shouldn't vote." And I was like, "Wait, are we going a little too far with how much we're criticizing women?" So I think like I really try to have that balance view, even though sometimes it doesn't show up like that. So I got to work on that. But um, I this concept of female supremacy is then really personified in the character, and then the character is very much written to talk down to every man around her. And they have to create the way the structure of the story usually is turning out to be is that they have to create this maximum vacuum that then only she can fill. So everyone around her is, like every male around her is a blundering fool who's, so disconnected from reality and just so pathetic. Like there's no other word for it. They're
Sure.
really writing men as like these pathetic characters. I have a huge problem with that. I think this concept, this desire of pandering to me as a woman by creating these characters is actually deeply flawed. The type of woman you end up pandering in those situations are narcissists, women who want to actually exercise their tyranny over the men around them, right? They want to treat their men as pathetic. And then and I see that actually play out quite a lot, that women of certain type will choose partners that are particularly um, weak, terrible children, and like, and then they'll absolutely run roughshod over them. That means that this woman can have it any way she wants. That man has almost no say in her life, and he turns into this form of like servant, but that she despises because he's so useless. And the thing is that idea feels very attractive to women because we've been empowered enough that we want to be in control, and we're really good at it, turns out, because women are, you can see the stats, typically speaking, is that we're high enough in agreeableness and we're high enough in conscientiousness that certain high paid positions are perfect for us. Like lawyers, female lawyers crush it, right? Same with accounting, like women just crush it in those fields. But after a certain while, that that space of you just being the only competent one becomes very lonely, and it becomes terrible. And I've been trying to put this thought together in my head, which is that a man can't even understand how truly satisfying it is to a woman if she knows that there's a man around that she can count on. And that concept, like, we don't talk about that as feminists. We're not allowed to talk about needing men, but there is a need that women have. We need competent men, and I feel like that, right? I'm recently married, and I have been in those situations, in those relationships where the men are so incompetent and so pathetic, and then there are those instances that the men are so tyrannical that I don't feel in control at all. And then I have a relationship with a man who is so confident in himself, but it gives me space to be whatever I need to be. So supportive, so kind, so considerate. And then there are like, I've been by myself for a long time, and I really didn't feel like I needed anybody. And then I started to feel the loneliness of it. And then he came along, and there's so many things that I can just say, you know what? He's got it. He's got it. That's deep satisfaction of knowing that I can count on him and he'll take care of it. And I feel genuinely safe in that. I think I think that's the biggest piece that modern media is missing about women, is that they actually want to create this weird pseudo reality where the female supremacy movement goes so far is that we make men redundant. We don't need men. And I think that's so flawed, because women are miserable when they're not around strong men. They're miserable. But it's the same with men. Men are miserable without women, and I know I'm getting into the relationship thing a lot and deviating away from the movie thing, but like there was someone in my life said this, that men have the means, but women provide the meaning. And I said, that's so true. That's 100% true. That like men can accomplish anything, but women are the motivation in so many ways. And we don't talk about that. We just don't. So that's my whole reasoning, is that I want we are at this like such an impasse between masculine and feminine energy that it's turned into a war versus any sort of discussion, conversation. And I think it's actively hurting people, including women.
Definitely. I think that too. I've been thinking that a lot lately, for maybe the last month, just about how we no longer talk about like the balance between masculinity and femininity, and that's where the true beauty lies. Like in my opinion, in the best relationships you have in life, it's that amazing dance between masculinity and femininity. And now it's as if like masculinity is inherently bad, and feminine people and women in general don't need men. They don't need them at all. You're good on your own. And it's just sending a really bad message and causing a war, like you said. And so, do you think the way that you can correct it is by trying to portray more of those relationships on screen, less like soul film, like less about just the one character, the one woman, the one man, more about the balance between the two? Is that how we correct it?
Yes, and I think Joss Whedon did a really great job of this with everything that he created. It's really like he's completely he's like canceled, gone. There's nothing. But one of the shows that I always admired of his was Firefly, and that what you're talking about, right? There are women that embody masculine energy really well, and then there are men that embody feminine energy. And what he did was that he showed that array of possibilities, right? There were women on that ship. Are you familiar with Firefly?
No, I didn't watch it. I know what it is, but I haven't
Oh,
seen
oh, you should. You're
it.
gonna. It's on Hulu right now, so tonight, if you don't have any plans. It's a great show. So and I won't give anything away, but there are great examples of different types of women. And then there are different types of men. There are men that are more protective. There are men that are more aggressive. There are men that are much softer. And then, because I think Joss has a great understanding of interplay along with the other writers on that show, he would show the interplay between the different characters. And I think this is the biggest piece that's missing from the way characters get written today, is the concept of balance. That if you are very masculine, that comes with positives and negatives. And if you are very feminine, that comes with positives and negatives. But that concept doesn't exist anymore. And this is true across the board, like with everything. There's a lot of black and white writing that if you don't believe this, then you're just wrong. Versus like, okay, let's even take something as, I mean, it's like quite a complex topic, but like, being pro environment, right? Like you can be pro environment and recognize that there are policies that might be suggested that are going to hurt people and make people poorer for it, right? But that's not how these writers are thinking. They're thinking like, no, if you're against the environment, if you're not for these policies, you are against the environment and you need to be cast into hell and or whatever, fate that they want to deliver. And that's the problem, that old style writing. I mean, it sucks to call it old because it was so good, and it sucks that to recognize that it's gone out of fashion. But there used to be this recognition that anything comes with its challenges and positives, and that then and then that proves that you need the other side to balance out the positives or the negatives. You need challenge to figure out what the answer is, because an overly aggressive masculine perspective on something doesn't always work, and an overly sensitive and emotional perspective on something doesn't work. You need the balance, and you need the both sides to work together. But that's the thing, it's like it's this desire to cut people off, and that's the political landscape, right? If you don't believe what I believe, you don't get to talk to me. I don't have to listen to you. You're triggering me. Like whatever other phrases, I was trying to think of one, but I can't think of one. But anyway, that there's no room for proper conversation. It's instead like my way or the highway. And then so that's why the characters get written with those easy brushstrokes. Oh, she's perfect in every way, and this and that. And so there's no room for challenge. There's no room for discussion.